The 20th century was witness to some of the largest naval clashes in history. Warships decided the fate of nations on the battlefield of the ocean.
The true power of a battleship is its presence and its potential capability.
They're a floating community, and yet they exist for fighting a war.
A battle of annihilation in which two powerful fleets will face each other and one fleet will succumb.
It's hell unleashed. It's Armageddon. Death coming raining down on you.
Bombs, torpedoes, and even nuclear weapons sealed their doom. But hidden in the depths, the wrecks of these ocean warriors still have secrets to be revealed.
There's been lots of legends, myths, conspiracies.
They're little time capsules. There's something that hasn't been wiped away.
Beneath the surface lies the story of their fate. These are the secrets of the sunken warships. "300 miles west of Iceland, a colossal pillar of black smoke rises above the grey sea. The Royal Navy's legendary battlecruiser HMS Hood has been destroyed in a terrifying explosion. Just 3 out of her crew of more than 1,000 have survived. The new German battleship Bismarck has scored what appears to be a tremendous victory. It's a Nazi propaganda coup. But in Britain, there is shock, despair, and one resounding call: sink the Bismarck.
If a writer make up a story like this, you wouldn't hardly believe it.
It's the ultimate wartime tale of the sea. It's got this beautiful ship, it's got the hunt, it's got the drama, it's got tragedy.
Scraps like this don't come along every day in war.
High drama and high adventure and tragic consequences. It will linger in popular consciousness for a very long time.
It's more than 2 years before the sinking of HMS Hood. The largest battleship Germany has ever constructed is about to enter the water for the first time. For fascist dictator Adolf Hitler, it's a crowning moment. This new battleship is a symbol of his ambition. Named after the Iron Chancellor who secured German unification in the 19th century, her name is Bismarck.
Bismarck has the distinction of being the largest battleship constructed by any European nation up to that date. She's 823 feet long, and to give that a bit of context, that's almost the entire length of Buckingham Palace. She is a very heavily armed ship. She carries 8 15-inch guns in 4 twin turrets, 2 forward and 2 aft. She's very well armored. Her sides are protected by an armor belt that runs from her A turret all the way through her D turret astern. For her size, Bismarck has a very impressive turn of speed, capable, thanks to her hull form and her powerful machinery, of maintaining a speed of 29 knots in virtually all but the most severe conditions.
18 months after her hull was launched, Bismarck is finally ready for her sea trials. But the world has changed. Germany is now at war with Britain. Its armies have achieved stunning victories in Norway and smashed through France and the Low Countries. Britain is isolated.
Britain can't do anything on her own. She needs food, she needs raw materials, and this is all coming in by boat. The German thinking is if we cut their ability to bring stuff in, then we can scupper the British war effort, and it's like a plan of sea denial.
And the best way they can do it at this relatively early stage in the war is to support the U-boat operations with regular sweeps by capital ships and raiders to disrupt Allied merchant convoys.
The Royal Navy possesses a fleet far larger than the German Kriegsmarine, but its global commitments have stretched the British to breaking point. That gives the Germans a chance.
You might think, why would they have surface raiders when they've got U-boats going out to do this work? But surface raiders have a role to play as well. They will try and pick off your smaller convoy escorts. And you don't even need to sink the convoy escorts. As soon as you start firing on them, the panic will start and the merchant ships will start scattering, and then you can pick them off individually.
By employing capital ships in attacks on enemy convoys, forces the Royal Navy to send out powerful vessels as escorts. And this means they are not available on other theaters of war, like the Mediterranean.
The head of the German Navy is Grand Admiral Erich Raeder. At the end of 1940, he is determined to put the German surface fleet at the forefront of military operations. The battleships Scharnhorst and Gneisenau successfully break out into the Atlantic under the noses of the British and cause havoc among Allied convoys. If the Germans can unleash Bismarck as well, the results could be even more spectacular. A daring new plan is hatched. For Raeder, there is only one man who can command the operation.
Günther Lütjens is one of the most experienced, most seasoned German naval officers. He is seen as a sound tactician by Raeder. He had commanded squadrons before, and so he's the most qualified German naval officer for a job like going on the cruise in the Atlantic with the Bismarck.
The new plan is codenamed Rheinübung. But to maximize the power of the German squadron, Bismarck will need a partner.
Prinz Eugen is a heavy cruiser, and she's chosen as Bismarck's consort on Operation Rheinübung, partly because she is an ideal vessel to serve as a raider, but also for the rather critical reason that there are no other heavy ships of a suitable type available to accompany Bismarck. Most of the other vessels that should have been chosen are either damaged or in port and therefore unavailable.
The plan seems simple. Bismarck will draw away the convoy's warship escorts, allowing Prince Eugen free rein to sink the remaining merchant ships at will. But Admiral Lütjens has misgivings.
His concern is that he has been given ships that are not necessarily suitable for this mission.
Prince Eugen, she's a sleek, modern ship, but she has one limitation, and that is she lacks the fuel capacity that Bismarck has. That's a limiting factor because she'll have to go back into port or be resupplied by a supply ship hiding in the vastness of the Atlantic, which limits her effectiveness.
Admiral Raeder takes into account Lütjens' objections, but in the end he dismisses them. This is not purely a matter of strategy for Raeder. He has a point to prove. The German Navy needs to continue to be seen to do something to help swing the balance of the war in Germany's favor.
This will probably be the Navy's last great chance to show the effectiveness of its Atlantic commerce raiding strategy, the job that Bismarck was designed to do.
Bismarck and Prince Eugen leave their Baltic sea base on May 19th, 1941. For the men aboard Bismarck, it's finally time to put all they have learned into action. Rumors of the operation have been rife for weeks. The apprehension of the unknown is now replaced by the certainty of combat. Radio silence is to be maintained. Allied spies will be watching and listening. But the cloak of secrecy does not last long.
Secrecy is very important to the success of Operation Rheinübung. And the first risk is actually getting out of the Baltic, past neutral Sweden. If Bismarck and her consorts are spotted, then the Swedes could very well pass that information on to the British Admiralty.
Admiral Lütjens' fears are soon realized. Bismarck and Prince Eugen are spotted by a Swedish light cruiser. The warship's report of 2 battleships and 3 destroyers reaches the British naval attaché in Sweden. The element of surprise has been lost, but Lutyens is determined to continue his mission. As Bismarck heads out into the North Sea, only time will tell if the Royal Navy will be waiting for them. British airman Mike Suckling is nearing the end of a reconnaissance mission over southwest Norway. His specially adapted Spitfire is armed with cameras rather than guns. Suckling is at the limit of his fuel supply when he makes an unauthorized detour. The clear blue sky over the Grimstad fjord provides a spectacular view. Far below, he spots a huge German warship. His camera snaps into action. Within just 2 hours, Suckling's photographs are on the desks of British naval intelligence.
Flying Officer Mike Suckling plays a small but crucial role in the story of the Bismarck. And this is important news for the Admiralty because this proves that both vessels are about to put to sea to try to break through into the Atlantic to prey on Allied shipping.
For the commander of the British Home Fleet, Admiral John Tovey, this is the news he has been waiting for. The question now is what route Bismarck will take to break out into the Atlantic. To the north, in the Arctic Sea, the heavy cruisers HMS Suffolk and HMS Norfolk already patrol the waters between Iceland and Greenland. To support his cruisers, the Admiral dispatches 2 of his largest capital ships, the legendary battlecruiser HMS Hood and the new battleship HMS Prince of Wales. His remaining warships cover the 2 possible routes south. Tovey's trap is set.
HMS Hood is a battle cruiser, a design created before the First World War, where armament and speed is emphasized rather than armored protection.
HMS Hood is the pride of the Royal Navy. She is, at least in regard to tonnage, the largest warship afloat. She is a symbol of British naval supremacy.
Hood's companion is a powerful vessel too.
The Prince of Wales is a member of the King George V class. As such, she represents the latest in British battleship design. She is a brand new ship. Normally, when a ship is commissioned, it needs time to work up, it needs time for its systems to settle. The crew need time to acclimatize themselves to the new vessel. This is a process that can sometimes take months in peacetime. In wartime, there is simply no time. And with the threat of Bismarck, it is felt that Prince of Wales is too sorely needed. So she is sent with her inexperienced crew and even some civilian contractors still aboard who have not yet been able to finish sorting out all the bugs in her systems.
The British have made their move. Now it is Admiral Lutyens' turn to gamble. Bismarck and Prince Eugen leave Norwegian waters. If they reach the Denmark Strait before the ships of the Royal Navy, the Germans could slip past them and escape into the Atlantic. Late on May 21st, 1941, Bismarck's wireless room comes alive with a report from German naval intelligence.
They literally tell Lutyens that, yeah, you're fine. Royal Navy's sitting around doing nothing. We can see them in Scapa Flow, but they're not sitting around doing nothing. They're actually out at sea where you're about to send the Bismarck.
Making 25 knots through the freezing water, Bismarck's sailors keep a close lookout. As the battleship heads southwest into the Denmark Strait, alarms sound. The drone of propellers is detected. Lookouts think they see a shape through the fog. Something is out there, hiding in the grey gloom.
Visibility is rather low. So you have only a range of sight of, let's say, 4 nautical miles. So even more important it is to keep your eyes open.
West of Bismarck's position, the British cruisers Suffolk and Norfolk have detected the German squadron. They shadow Bismarck and Prince Eugen at a distance of 13 miles. But Bismarck knows they are there. A lethal game of cat and mouse is underway. Aboard the German battleship, the sighting of British cruisers is a terrible blow. Admiral Lütjen's plan was to avoid all contact with enemy ships before Bismarck escaped into the vast expanse of the Atlantic. But now they have been discovered. Soon, HMS Hood and Prince of Wales move to intercept the German squadron.
The crew of the Hood is well experienced, seasoned, and professional. They are certainly among the best sailors in the Royal Navy.
On paper, the British should have the edge. Hood and Bismarck both have 8 15-inch guns. Prince of Wales has 10 14-inch guns. Prince Eugen, being a heavy cruiser with her 8-inch guns, isn't really a major consideration.
In command on HMS Hood is Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland. His ships stalk Bismarck on a converging course with the Germans.
Hood's design as a battle cruiser means she's vulnerable. She has very thin deck armor. HMS Hood has to close the range as fast as possible so that Hood reaches what naval gunnery people would call the zone of invulnerability, where the shells start hitting well-protected side armor of the ship rather than her vulnerable deck armor.
Early on May 24th, Vice Admiral Holland issues orders to target the lead ship of the German squadron, 12.5 miles away.
When action is joined at the Battle of the Denmark Strait, Holland is in rather a lot of trouble. He realizes that in order to minimize the threat to Hood, he has to bring her close, but he decides to keep Prince of Wales with Hood, conforming to her movements, and this sets him at an initial disadvantage because the 2 British ships are only able to engage with their forward turrets, while the Germans have the luxury of bringing every heavy weapon they have to bear on the oncoming British ships.
Aboard Bismarck, Admiral Lütjens assumes the approaching ships are just enemy cruisers, until he sees the size of the shells coming back at him. Suddenly, he realizes that he is facing some of the most powerful units of the Royal Navy. But the British aren't targeting the German battleship. They're focusing their fire on the smaller warship, Prince Eugen. It's a critical error.
Precious minutes are wasted in the opening moments of the battle until Hood realizes her mistake.
That means on Bismarck, her gunnery teams have the luxury of targeting Hood while not being under fire from her. So that gives them a huge advantage in that crucial first few salvos of their duel.
Gun teams aboard the German vessels work flat out. Then suddenly, in the distance, smoke slithers into the sky. They've hit something. But they don't stop firing. Moments later, the ocean echoes to the sound of an enormous explosion.
We will never truly know the specifics of what destroyed HMS Hood, other than that, generally speaking, the catastrophic hit triggered magazine detonations.
The result is a catastrophic explosion that essentially rips the ship in two. On her bridge, they're unaware of it until the helmsman reports that the rudder isn't answering. The reason is the rudder is gone. The rear half of the ship is gone.
The destruction is horrifically spectacular and is witnessed by all of the ships present. German witnesses rather poignantly point out the fact that Hood's forward turrets appear to fire one last defiant salvo before the ship went down.
HMS Hood, the world's most famous warship, is no more. Out of a crew of 1,418 men, Only 3 are later plucked from the icy waves by British destroyers. A cheer rings out aboard Bismarck. Her gunners switch targets. They have just sunk the pride of the British fleet. Now they have the Prince of Wales in their sights.
The first of the 11 hits scored on Prince of Wales that day comes in the form of a shell from Bismarck. It strikes her squarely on the roof of the bridge and it travels aft before bursting and spraying the entire structure with splinters. 13 men on the bridge are killed instantly, and all of the paraphernalia of command and control are wrecked. For several crucial minutes, the Prince of Wales is effectively without direction from her captain and senior officers.
Miraculously, the captain of Prince of Wales is spared. He orders his ship to turn hard to port and away from the German attackers. That's when the British get lucky. Aboard Bismarck, false sightings of a torpedo lead Admiral Lutyens to break off the attack. He orders his gunners to cease fire. The battle has lasted just 17 minutes.
The loss of Hood is a deep psychological blow, not just to the Royal Navy, but to the British people as well. The Mighty Hood, as she was affectionately known, was a symbol of British sea power for 20 years.
What makes the loss of the Hood worse is that the war effort for the Allies is going badly at the time as well. So actually what you're looking for at this point is good press, not a complete and utter disaster.
In Nazi Germany, the news of Hood's spectacular demise is met with delight. But in Britain, there is shock, anger, and determination. The Royal Navy has a new mission, a new purpose: revenge. It's just past 9 a.m., and aboard the German battleship Bismarck, engineers are hard at work. Bismarck has scored a remarkable victory over the Royal Navy. Her guns have damaged the battleship HMS Prince of Wales and have sent the pride of the British fleet, HMS Hood, to the bottom of the sea. But Bismarck has not emerged from this titanic clash unscathed.
The design of a battleship is a balance between 3 things, between good armor, good armament, and good propulsion. If the balance shifts in any direction, something else has to be sacrificed. So in Bismarck's case, the things she needs to fight and stay afloat, her propulsion systems and her magazines and her gun turrets, are very well armored with 13.5-inch thick Krupp steel. But beyond that central citadel and beyond those gun turrets, the armor is quite light. That's her Achilles heel.
Despite having won a spectacular tactical victory over the British, Admiral Lutyens has a serious problem on his hands. The damage to the bows of the Bismarck mean that he has lost access to a large amount of fuel, shortening his ship's operational range by about 1,000 miles. It's very quickly clear to him that he can no longer carry out the requirements of Operation Rheinebung, and he makes the critical decision that he's got to get Bismarck back to port for repairs.
Not a single cargo ship in the Atlantic has yet been sunk by the German squadron. But all is not lost. Bismarck's consort, the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen, is undamaged. If the 2 ships separate, Prinz Eugen can continue the commerce-raiding mission, whilst Bismarck makes a dash for the safety of the German-controlled French coast. But first, they have to escape from the British.
Admiral Lutyens has problems. He's being shadowed by the damaged Prince of Wales and the cruisers Norfolk and Suffolk, one of whom has a very powerful radar set which is keeping tabs on his task force. He knows that in order to give Prinz Eugen her window of opportunity, he has to do something to distract the British. And what he does is fairly spectacular. He turns round very abruptly with the Bismarck, as if intending to give battle.
And he uses that moment when the British are distracted and at the edge of their radar distance to give the order for Prince Eugen to break off and speed away.
Prince Eugen is able to escape and disappears south. But the two British cruisers continue to shadow Bismarck from a distance. They are joined by the battered battleship Prince of Wales. And now Bismarck is on her own.
The Royal Navy wants to send Bismarck to the bottom. They start ripping ships from everywhere. They're pulling ships off of convoy duty to get a fleet together to hunt her down and kill her.
Aboard his flagship, King George V, the commander of the British Home Fleet, Admiral Tovey, is giving chase at full speed. He is joined by the battlecruiser Repulse, the aircraft carrier Victorious, 4 cruisers and 9 destroyers. He is kept up to date with Bismarck's position by Norfolk and Suffolk. But anything Tovey can do to slow Bismarck down will give him the upper hand. So he orders Victorious to launch an airstrike.
Victorious's pilots are inexperienced and very new to this sort of thing. This is the first mission of this nature that many of them have actually flown. The flight deck is pitching heavily. It's very difficult to launch armed aircraft, especially those trying to carry torpedoes. But even once they've got in the air, they have the difficulties of finding their target in the worsening conditions and the gathering darkness.
The raid by the Swordfish torpedo bombers is a gamble. Their chances of success are slim. But the British airmen are determined to avenge their fallen comrades on Hood. Aboard Bismarck, her sailors hear the distant drone of propellers. The German battleship has no air cover. They know these planes must be British. Alarms ring through Bismarck as her gun crews dash to their stations. The hunter is now the hunted.
The Swordfish is a biplane. It looks like a product of an earlier age.
Torpedo bombers do not need to be fast in an area where you enjoy air superiority or where the enemy cannot bring any fighters into play. In fact, given the fragility of torpedoes, a torpedo bomber needs to be able to approach at a slow and steady speed in order to drop accurately and ensure the torpedo runs normally.
I think it's very hard to imagine how the pilots felt in their feeble Swordfish torpedo bombers, only covered with canvas and fabric, to attack a mighty vessel splattered with guns like the Bismarck. It's like flying into the open mouth of hell.
The British biplanes attack Bismarck from different sides, splitting her anti-aircraft defense before launching their deadly payloads. But the great German battleship is nimble. She manages to outmaneuver most of the torpedoes. Suddenly, the ship shudders. A torpedo has smashed into Bismarck's armored hull. Although it does little physical damage, a German sailor is killed. He is the very first casualty among Bismarck's crew. The British biplanes retreat. But on Bismarck, Admiral Lutyens knows he has to lose the shadowing British cruisers to stand any chance of escape. As dawn breaks, he spots an opportunity.
The British cruisers Norfolk and Suffolk are both zigzagging as they pursue the Bismarck. Zigzagging allows a warship to minimize a threat from submarines by effectively steering an unpredictable course. Lutyens waits until a favorable moment when the two cruisers are on a course away from him, and at 13 miles distance he orders his ship to head northwards at her best possible speed. This is sufficient to break HMS Suffolk's radar contact with the Bismarck, and when he's certain that he's clear of the pursuit, Lutyens then orders the Bismarck south.
It's then, however, that Lutyens makes a fatal error. He decides to send a radio message to Berlin.
In the belief that Bismarck is still on the radar screens of her pursuers, Lutyens believes that the position of Bismarck is known to the British anyway. So there is no sense in keeping radio silence, which of course helped the British to triangulate the Bismarck and thus establishing her position.
British warships head south in pursuit. Bismarck is now running low on fuel. To have any hope of making it to port in Brest, the Germans have to conserve fuel. So Admiral Lutyens orders the ship to slow to just 20 knots. But any reduction in speed only gives the British more chance to catch up. By the morning of May 26th, Bismarck is still almost 700 nautical miles northwest of Brest. But Admiral Lutyens is growing optimistic. He calculates that within 16 hours, the ship will be under the protective screen of Luftwaffe planes stationed in France. The British are running out of time to catch their prey. On board the battleship King George V, Admiral Tovey is still more than 100 miles further north. There is only one way he can catch Bismarck now: Force H.
Force H, based at Gibraltar, is a compact Royal Navy strike force comprising the modern aircraft carrier Ark Royal, the elderly but modernised battlecruiser HMS Renown, and the modern light cruiser HMS Sheffield.
Orders dart across the airwaves. Soon, Swordfish aircraft from Ark Royal take to the skies.
Conditions when Ark Royal launches her strike against Bismarck are still poor. The weather has moderated to a slight degree, but visibility is now becoming very, very bad. In order to make the most of the resources available, it's decided to fit Ark Royal's planes with a new type of magnetic exploder on their torpedoes.
To maintain contact with Bismarck, the cruiser Sheffield is ordered to move closer and shadow the German battleship. But this key piece of information is not passed on to the Swordfish pilots. When they make contact with a ship that afternoon, they swoop down to attack.
The pilots of Ark Royal are searching for the Bismarck, and the conditions prevalent, it's very hard to find anything out in the sea. Suddenly, they see a single large vessel and they mistake it for the Bismarck. Indeed, it's HMS Sheffield, one of the pursuers. And to the great astonishment of the Sheffield's captain, he is suddenly attacked by British aircraft.
It could have ended disastrously, but in a way the attack is a blessing in disguise. It reveals problems with the torpedo detonation system.
The attack did not do much harm to Sheffield, but it left the captain on his bridge, purple with rage.
The dispirited Swordfish crews return to Ark Royal, but they have learned a valuable lesson. They are rearmed with an older design of torpedo fitted with more reliable contact detonators. The new strike force is quickly readied. Time is of the essence. It's getting dark. Nightfall will make another strike impossible. For the Royal Navy, this is the final roll of the dice.
During the approach to Bismarck, poor visibility means that the flight commander has to order his pilots to attack individually or in small groups. In any torpedo attack, the torpedo is launched ahead of the target so that the torpedo and the ship land up in the same spot at the same time.
On Bismarck, the alarms sound once again. 400 gunners run to their stations, and soon the air is filled with exploding flak.
The aircraft start breaking out through the cloud and attack Bismarck at different times, from different angles, from port, from starboard, from bow to stern. And that, more than anything else, confuses the German anti-aircraft gunners, making the Swordfish actually quite difficult to counter.
A tremor is felt through the great ship. A torpedo hit. Bismarck's thick armor shrugs it off. But more planes are swooping in. Skimming the waves, they are so low, Bismarck's larger anti-aircraft guns cannot hit them. A second explosion vibrates through the ship, and a plume of water rises at her stern.
A torpedo hits Bismarck in her one really vulnerable spot, right at the stern, where her exposed rudder and propellers are vulnerable to damage.
This torpedo jams her rudders at an 18-degree turn to port. And what this means in practice is that unless they can solve that problem and fix the damage, Bismarck is now committed to steaming in a large circle and effectively cannot maneuver.
Desperate attempts to release the rudder fail. The damage is too severe, and the weather hampers any further repairs. Bismarck is now stuck in a long, lazy turn away from the safety of the French coast. For Lutyens, the outcome is now certain. He sends a final message to his Navy Command Center. Ship unable to maneuver. We will fight to the last shell. Long live the Führer.
For the crew of the Bismarck, it now becomes clear that the end is near. They have no chance to escape. And I dare not to imagine what these men must have felt in these last hours of their lives.
Bismarck won a great victory over the Royal Navy with the destruction of HMS Hood. But now it appears the British will finally have their revenge. As dawn breaks, British Admiral John Tovey paces the bridge of his flagship, King George V. His force has now been strengthened by the veteran battleship HMS Rodney. His target, Bismarck, may be damaged, but the great German battleship is still dangerous. Her main armament of 8 massive 15-inch guns remains fully operational.
King George V and Rodney are a much better pairing against Bismarck than were Prince of Wales and Hood. King George V, in terms of her basic statistics, is effectively an even match. Add to this the fact that she has an experienced crew who's been with her a while and is thoroughly worked up. She is quite a formidable opponent for the crippled German battleship. As if that were not enough for Bismarck to contend with, Rodney outclasses the German battleship quite significantly, both in her gun power and in her armor protection.
12. Shortly before 9 in the morning, a lookout aboard King George V spots a huge dark shape. The signal is hoisted, enemy in sight. Bismarck is heading northwest at just 10 knots. Rodney alters course to port, intending to split Bismarck's fire between the 2 Royal Navy ships. Then, the British open fire.
Despite the fierce resistance that Bismarck and her crew deliver against the British, it's more or less target practice.
Thanks to her rudder damage, it's really hard to keep Bismarck on a straight course. This has an impact on our fire control because fire control systems rely on predicting where your ship is going to be and the enemy ship is going to be and working out the mathematics to make sure that the shells land in the right place. This is really hard when your own ship is essentially turning in a kind of crab-like circle.
In spite of her limitations, Bismarck's gunnery again proves exceptional. One salvo of shells lands just yards from Rodney's forward superstructure and peppers the ship with deadly metal splinters. But the Germans are no match for the firepower the British bring to bear.
At 9:02, Rodney scores a critical hit on Bismarck's forward superstructure. The 16-inch shell impacts the structure, destroying the forward gun director and creating a blast which effectively wipes out the bridge and most of the people in it. Admiral Lutyens is killed during this strike, and a period of command confusion follows. At this time, Bismarck loses the ability to centrally control the fire of her guns, and all her turrets are forced to begin firing under local control.
Unable to return effective fire, and with her steering gone, the once mighty German battleship is soon engulfed in smoke and flames.
The British shells smash the superstructures of the Bismarck, silencing one gun turret after another. She is a burning wreck.
Survivors speak of men trapped inside their gun turrets, unable to get out as the flames lick around them, and men on fire throwing themselves into the sea, and of bits of bodies littering the deck. It truly is a scene of utter devastation.
But aboard King George V, Tovey is running out of time. His battleships are now desperately short of fuel. Bismarck must be finished off, and quickly. HMS Rodney closes in for the kill.
One of the quirks of interwar design was that Rodney actually carried her own submerged torpedo tubes.
During the battle, she makes a number of attempts to use these weapons against the Bismarck, and towards the end of the engagement, she finally scores a hit. This has been seen as a unique moment in the history of naval warfare because it is the only recorded incident in which one battleship successfully torpedoed another.
Despite Rodney's successful torpedo hit, Bismarck defiantly remains afloat. The heavy cruiser Dorsetshire is now called in to finish the job. With Bismarck's guns out of action, the cruiser can pull in close and unleash 3 massive 21-inch torpedoes at the wounded giant. Her decks are a wreck of twisted steel and glowing flame. But Bismarck's naval ensign can still be seen flying through the smoke.
Following an old tradition in the German Navy that no ship must fall into the hands of the enemy. So preparations are made by the crew of the Bismarck to scuttle the ship, to allow the water to rush in to secure a fast sinking of the vessel.
Men scramble into the freezing water, grabbing onto any object that will float. Then, the great ship heels over to port, capsizes, and disappears into the dark abyss.
Quite a number of German sailors made it to jump into the water before the Bismarck went down, but only a portion of them could be rescued by British vessels. These rescue operations had to be abandoned because there was a warning that German U-boats were operating in the area. I've read some accounts of British sailors who told that it was a heartbreaking moment for them to leave those poor chaps in the water for their deaths.
Just 114 men from a complement of over 2,000 survive. Bismarck and her crew have made the ultimate sacrifice. But it is in vain. Not a single Allied merchant ship is sunk before Bismarck's escort, Prinz Eugen, returns to Brest. Operation Rheinebung is a failure.
The Germans have invested so much by way of propaganda into this mighty war vessel, which is supposedly invincible. The Nazi authorities have a very difficult time explaining away her loss.
The loss of Bismarck has a devastating effect on the Kriegsmarine. From now on, attacks on British and Allied shipping is down to the U-boats.
The relatively easy dispatch of HMS Hood seems to only reinforce this idea that this vessel is somehow a superhuman monster that can challenge anything the Allies throw at her, and it makes the process of subsequently hunting her down and finally sinking her into a sort of hard-fought and yet triumphal epic.
She has come to epitomize the great era of the battleship. Even today, you get somebody to name a battleship, name any warship, and they'll name Bismarck.
In 1989, an expedition discovers the wreck of Bismarck. The powerful battleship was once the pride of Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. Her rusting hulk symbolizes the destruction of his dreams of fascist domination. It is a tomb for over 2,000 German sailors who never returned home.